The new school year kicks off today for hundreds of thousands of kids in the LA Unified School District. Students are expected to attend mandatory orientation sessions today and tomorrow, with the first official day of instruction coming on Thursday. All classes will be online due to the coronavirus pandemic, but there are new guidelines in place this fall for distance learning, including mandatory attendance taking, a school day that runs from 9 in the morning till about 2:15, and requirements that teachers make sure students have the necessary equipment at home to take part in online learning. Katie Braude is the CEO of Speak Up, an LA-based grassroots group that advocates for parents to have more input in education. She says the new guidelines are a step in the right direction, but that they don't go anywhere near far enough.
They're clearly an improvement over the spring, but the spring was an unmitigated disaster, quite honestly. And if we are thinking about the amount of learning loss that happened last spring and what is likely to continue, this is not nearly enough. So we're glad that there are clear schedules in place, that there's more structure to the process, but the number of hours of instruction still falls short of what kids were getting before the pandemic.
What are you hearing from parents? What are their biggest concerns going into this fall?
Parents, first of all, feel as if their voice was not included in this process adequately at all. They're still concerned about access to adequate technology, even though the district has gone a long way toward helping provide devices and hotspots and so on. It's still not where it needs to be. And we're hearing from parents that their children had so little individual contact with teachers that they want to know more precisely what does synchronous and asynchronous learning look like. The state only mandates a certain number of instructional minutes. It doesn't say how they need to be divided. Depending on the grade level, kids can have as little as an hour and a half of actual teacher given instruction, so the synchronous instruction. At the most, they're getting maybe 2.5 hours a day for the high school kids. This isn't going to be enough for kids to prepare for college. We're really concerned about the secondary school students, the high school students who are juniors and seniors in particular.
Are you hearing different concerns from parents, if their kids are in grade school versus high school, or are the concerns pretty much the same across the board?
No, we're hearing particular concern from the high school. I should say there are different concerns depending on the grade level. The high school students, there is an awful lot of concern about their ability to be ready for college. They don't have time to make it up. The younger kids, we can still find ways to mitigate the learning loss, but the high school kids that's a really serious situation.
Your organization did a survey of parents and found that one of their biggest issues is that kids get live instruction online. Were many of them in the spring only getting recorded instruction?
Many of the students were only getting recorded instruction, and many of them were getting only assignments and very little interaction with their teachers or feedback from their teachers. In some cases, no feedback at all. And one of the other things I should point out is that there were particular problems with students with special needs who need all kinds of additional supports. And those were essentially missing completely from our survey. We did an additional survey just of those students. And there was a very serious lack of interaction. And we understand there were restrictions in terms of in-person interaction, but there were serious impediments to getting the support structure in place for these students, and parents were at a loss as to how to support their students with special needs during the spring.
Do you feel like there's more support for special needs students going forward this fall, or do you feel like this is once again sort of, falling under the radar?
I think that really remains to be seen. They have put specific time slots in place in the schedules, but we're still kind of in the dark on what that actually looks like in practice.
If you could sit down with Austin Buettner, the superintendent of the LAUSD, and the head of the teachers union, what would be the top 3 items on your list that you say this needs to change?
We need to know that kids are getting an actual number of hours of instruction that will help them be where they need to be academically. We need to know that the teachers are getting access to the kinds of training on distance learning that will make them the most effective teachers possible. We still don't really understand what the district is doing to prepare teachers in that regard. And we understand that all instruction can't be synchronous, but the asynchronous instruction has to be much more clearly defined so that parents understand what that period of learning looks like. Is it small group instruction? Who's going to be conducting that? We just don't understand at all what that looks like, and assessments are really important to evaluate the learning loss and the growth over the course of the year.
Katie Braude is CEO of the parents advocacy group Speak Up.